Right, welcome back to the sauna, as some of you have liked to joke. Yeah, I know I need to furnish it. But the question for today is, can we get an extension? Because we're in such a mess with regard to Brexit, led by a fairly useless leader who's taken us up the garden path. Can we get an extension now? And there are various people calling for it. Lots of people are calling for it. Leader of the Lib Dems calling for it. Nicola Sturgeon's calling for it, as far as I'm aware. Answer is no. Actually, there is no legal basis for an extension of the current transition period. However, there are a few fudges available that will largely do the same thing. So let's go through that. And those fudges largely are around sort of fudging the law a bit, what the EU has said before, getting deals in which you can package in an extension, or begging the EU to take some unilateral actions which pretty much act as an extension on some of our current terms. So let's go through all of this then. Now, Article 50 was triggered in March 2017 for a 2-year period, but it's written into that when you trigger it, you can have pretty much as many extensions as you like, so long as it's agreed by both sides. Because we ran out of time many times over without knowing what we were doing, it got extended from March 2019 to then the April, and then the May, and then kicked to October, and then Boris Johnson was forced to extend it again to January 2020, by which time he had got a deal. But it wasn't a full deal, it was just a withdrawal agreement, a sort of holding agreement where we settle up the debts, but then buy space of a continuation in order to land the real deal, you know, what our future is going to be like together, on what terms and conditions. Now, that withdrawal agreement had in it an ability for the UK to extend that time if needed. It was like a card we were given to play, but we had to play it before the end of June. And a lot of the people are saying now, well, isn't it daft that we didn't play it then? Well, we were all saying at the time, play it because we're in the middle of a pandemic. But no, so we burnt up that option. We then burnt up the other option that we had to actually extend the current transition period, which was if we had asked sooner, as in sooner in the autumn, to extend it, then we possibly could have. Because even though we'd thrown away that opportunity in June, and even though it isn't in the negotiating mandate of Barnier and his team to negotiate an extension of the transition, they just had it to negotiate a deal, nevertheless, there would have been enough time to have a new agreement with all the EU 27, and this would be coming outside Barnier's remit and going around all of the capitals of the EU 27, and they probably need their parliaments to sign off, but a new treaty which essentially extends the transition conditions. But we are at such a time now, with just a few days left until the actual exit from transition, that you can't get all of the parliaments of Europe to sign off on that. So those routes are burnt, and we are no longer within the Article 50 legal basis anymore. So Article 50, by which we've been negotiating with the EU, is for countries coming out of the EU. And a lot can be done on that basis to extend transitions and so forth and so on. But because we have formally left the EU, we're not really in the territory where you can play around with that legal basis. And that's what certain people in the EU legal structures are saying and holding to. So that really, really screws us over. However, here are the fudges. Fudge number one, get a deal, just sign a deal, any deal, the one that we're close to at the moment. If you tie that up, then you have a deal. And even though it means on January the 1st, you're moving from the EU and transition system to the new system. Nevertheless, if you have a deal that you're moving to, you can have an implementation period for that deal. So within the deal, you don't have to have your disruption on January the 1st, because you know what you're moving to. You can, with a little bit of money and to keep buying into certain programs or goodwill or what have you, get that implementation phase that means that we don't have disruption on January the 1st. You kick it down the line by about a few months so that you've got more opportunity to be getting in your fresh food and veg and all the vaccines that you need. So that's one, that you package an extension of the transition, but not under that name, into a new deal. Fudge number two is you say, right, well, we can't actually sign off on a new deal as is because we're still so far away on meeting. Let's put that all to a side and pull onto the table a new deal. And what that new deal looks like is exactly like the terms that we've got at the moment, or extremely, extremely similar, but for a short period of time, for 6 months or maybe a year, so that there is no disruption on January the 1st because we have a deal. But that deal is kind of like full fat, all the rules that we subscribe to at the moment, but time limited. And in that time limited period, we can piggyback onto another deal, okay? Problem with that being, unless that has been well developed in the back pocket of the EU negotiators and the UK together, what all those terms and conditions are, that one is because that will involve money, that one is very, very hard to flesh out in an extremely short period of time, with patience running thin. So fudge number three is that we say we can't do a deal. We can't even do a temporary deal that mimics the transition period because we hasn't prepped it, and also it would be embarrassing or what have you. Then you can have a fudge whereby you basically beg the EU to take unilateral actions at the EU level in order to rescue a whole load of disruption, whether that be on recognition of rules of origin and tariffs and flights and everything to do with the snarling up of the border. You just say, please, let us off all of these things for a strict period of time, and we'll come to a proper arrangement within that time. So it's basically sort of begging to help out, and maybe there's a quid pro quo thrown in of we won't be disruptive on our side. That's the third fudge. Note that with all of these fudges, we have missed an important deadline for the European Parliament being able to sign off on any of this, so that the Commission would basically have to agree this deal with us and apply it provisionally and have the European Parliament sign it off in January or February after it's already provisionally applied, and you're really, really, really trusting their goodwill on that. So then that's for those three fudges. The fourth fudge is basically to go back to those lawyers within the EU Commission and say, okay, about this Article 50 thing as the legal basis. I know the UK has already left, so I know that Article 50 strictly doesn't apply to the UK situation because they're not in the process of leaving. But let's make an argument that they are in the process of leaving the structures, and that we can use this basis in order to squeak out a very limited transition extension of the current rules for a period of time. But that would be getting people to sign off on that fudge that they were unwilling to sign off on before, and that would be open to international challenge and legal challenge by any parties that feel disgruntled by this. So you are taking a bit of a risk by doing something that you think is questionable in its legality as just a stopgap measure. But that's, folks, is the basic state of play that we're on at the moment. We threw away two good options in order to get a proper extension of the current environment that we're in. madness. But there are a few emergency fudges available to us at the moment, but the terms and conditions on that is not something that we hold all the cards on, to borrow a phrase from a while back. We are quite over a barrel with this, and so we're going to need a whole load of goodwill in order to help us out of this hole that our clown of a prime minister has put us in. So that's that. As always, if you want to sponsor and support what we're doing, we've got a Patreon link. Please become a patron there, providing monthly support. That means that next year we will be able to continue doing all of this analysis on a very regular basis. There's lots and lots of transitioning into this alternative way of doing media, so we're also going for the Patreon route. So please make sure that you're helping out there, because it's massively appreciated and facilitating of what we do. Thanks very much.